Bonjour et bienvenue à cette conférence de presse. Hello and welcome to this press conference. I'm Elizabeth Thompson with CBC News. With us today, we have the Honourable Mary Ng, Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development, who will be speaking about her recent visit, by India's Cabinet Minister, Piyush Goyal. Minister Ng?
Hello, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. It's really terrific to be here. I won't say very much at the top. I think I want to leave most of the time for answers. I had the opportunity on Monday of this week to welcome my colleague, my counterpart from India, Minister Piyush Goyal, who, of course, is India's Minister of Commerce, to Ottawa. And he started the trip in Ottawa, where we had our second year in a row ministers' dialogue on trade and investment. This is Canada and India's sixth, and after a 5-year hiatus last year, I went to Delhi. And we had the fifth, and of course this year, Minister Goyal came to Canada. We had our sixth. I think it's really important to have these ministerial dialogues on trade and investment. I do this with all of our trading partners. So with Canada, US, and Mexico, I do this as part of CUSMA, having a regular trade ministers dialogue. I do this with my colleague in the European Union for CETA, and my colleagues in the Asia Pacific through CPTPP. So having India here and having the trade dialogue is a testament to our strong bilateral trade relationship, and our commitment to keep doing this work. And maybe one final word on that, why it's important. Businesses and our communities expect this. It's an opportunity where we are able to advance the kinds of things that we want to be working on going forward, but it's also an opportunity to work through just a stock take of how we are doing in our trade relationship. So we were able to do that. While I was in India last year, we relaunch trade discussions between Canada and India, starting with an early progress trade agreement. So while Minister Goyal was here, we had an opportunity, his delegation, the Canadian delegation had an opportunity to work on the EPTA to advance those discussions. There's already been several rounds of negotiations that have taken place. So while the minister was here on the margins of the MDTI, we were able to work on the early progress trade agreement. I also want to take an opportunity to thank Invest in Canada as well as the Business Council of Canada. They co-hosted a really terrific dinner reception to welcome the minister and put the minister in front of both parliamentarians, but also the large number of stakeholders in the business community and just throughout the community, and had an opportunity to spend some time with Minister Goyal and myself. And then we went to Toronto, and we spent 2 days in Toronto, where we listened to the business community, CEOs, many sectors, businesses of different sizes, investors who are investing in India. Right now, the trade relationship is one where we're doing well, but we could certainly do better, and that's what we heard from the business community, from the investment community. There's about $70 billion worth of portfolio investments in India, largely by some of Canada's pension funds, and so we had an opportunity to hear directly from them. And in terms of sort of just the size of the relationship, I mean, India, we know, is a growing economy, and it is the largest, I guess, the most populous country in the world now. And I had an opportunity to share with the guests who are here as part of Minister Goyal's delegation, just to situate them in Canada. And in Canada, we are nearly 10 million square kilometers from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast, and then to our northern coast. And yet there are 38 million of us. That's about 3% of India's population. And yet Canada is the 10th largest economy in the world. And we are the only G7 country with a free trade agreement with every other G7 country. trading with Canada means being able to trade with 1.5 billion people through the many trade agreements that we have with the world, including in North America, in Asia, as well as in the European Union. So to advance this work is really, really important. And why India? Well, Canada released our Indo-Pacific strategy at the end of last year. India is an important part of that strategy. India and Canada are democracies. We are both countries who respect the rule of law, and we're committed to the rules-based international order and international trade. We collaborate multilaterally, whether it's through the G20, of course, which India is the host this year, but also through multilateral forums like the WTO. We're both members of the Commonwealth, and India and Canada collaborate bilaterally, but as well as in these multilateral forums. And as we are looking to build our economies, and we're both committed to building green and sustainable economies in the future, there are many sectors to which Canada and India could be collaborating on, and also ensure that trade is inclusive, so that trade yields benefits to those that have often been underrepresented in our economy, whether it's small and medium-sized businesses or women entrepreneurs, racialized entrepreneurs, Indigenous entrepreneurs here in Canada, and deliberately working together so that we can create opportunities in each other's value chains for the growth of those businesses, and to build a green economy. And then maybe I'll end with this. I'm very excited that I will be taking a Team Canada trade mission to India in October of this year, later this year. We have also reconstituted the Canada-India CEO Forum. What the last number of days have said to us is that our businesses really do want government to do the work that we government do well, which is to convene and to bring the right partners together. And here, convening the business community is something that we would like to do by resuming the CEO forum between Canada and India. And I know that there are many members of the media here who speak to Indians here in Canada, and it was very, very heartening to see many people from the Canadian India diaspora who took the time out through their parliamentarians, but also here at the reception in Ottawa, have an opportunity to meet Minister Goyal. But it is he certainly was able to see that Canadian Indian spirit right here in Canada. So it was a good trip. It was a productive trip, and I'm looking forward to taking Team Canada to India later this year. So with that, I will available for questions.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. It is now time for questions. It will be one question, one follow-up, which for those who are not members of the press gallery is the tradition. And if there is time, we can go around for a second round. And if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. This is a virtual press conference, and I will see your raised hand on the computer. First question goes to Dylan Robertson from the Canadian Press.
Hi, Minister. Thanks so much for taking our questions today.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi, Minister. You told Bloomberg that a deal is coming in weeks, not months, is what you're expecting. And I'm just wondering, after this visit, what timeline you're looking at?
Well, I think what I said to Bloomberg, because I think the question to me is it going to be months or years? And I think what I said specifically was that it was not going to be years. And that holds true today. I would say we had a very productive discussion on a whole range of issues. And I would say that that work will continue. I'm encouraged by the work that both Piyush and I were able to do. Usually when he and I are in a room, we roll up our sleeves and we get to work, and this time was no different. So I'm very optimistic that this work will just proceed as it needs to. And I am optimistic that we will get there.
Thank you. And I had a non-India question. I just wanted to ask about snow crabs. This is an issue with Japan, and I think it might also be South Korea. I know that you've raised this issue with our allies about buying up cheap Russian seafood when Canadian farmers are having trouble selling their snow crabs. I'm just wondering if you've asked the Prime Minister to raise this issue when he goes abroad next week.
Well, let me begin by speaking to our fishers in Atlantic Canada, but indeed all across the country, that they can count on me and they can count on our government to support them always. This is an issue that I did have an opportunity to raise, and we'll continue to do that. We're working at the working level, but also with industry as well. And look, Canada has been very supportive of Ukraine. We have denounced Russia and their illegal war on Ukraine. We have implemented a whole range of sanctions. We withdrew most favored nation status immediately when Russia invaded Ukraine, and whether it's sanctions or not trading with them, we're just going to keep doing the work that is necessary to say to Russia that this war is illegal and they need to stop.
Are there any other questions? And it is Dylan again. Dylan?
Hi, sorry if I'm muted. You're normally much more popular, Minister. I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to talk a bit more about the timeline, though, because we're hearing a lot from the Business Council about the importance of getting a deal done, especially with India, facing an election next spring, and everyone's looking at the G20 coming up, saying that's a great window. I'm just wondering what your reflection is when there's that pressure to get a deal done by the fall. If you see that pressure, and if that's an arbitrary timeline, or if we actually need a timeline to sort of say, this is where we see it going.
Well, I'm really pleased with the progress that's been made so far. We've had 7 rounds of negotiations in a year. I mean, Minister Goyal and I launched these discussions a year ago. As I said, and I think Minister Goyal said the same thing, we are pleased with the progress, and as the work as this work goes, we need to stay very, very focused and committed to doing the work on both sides. And I'm committed to this. I believe Minister Goyal, in fact, I know Minister Goyal is committed to this in terms of having our negotiating teams continue to pursue this work. So I, if we continue at this pace and make the continued progress as we both wish to see occur, then I think we will get there. But I don't want to, and I don't think we need, I don't think we need sort of a deadline, if you will, to drive us there. We're both committed to it because we're committed to this relationship. We heard from businesses, but we also, but India is also a part of an important part of Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. So deepening the trade relationship and to continue doing this work is a priority for us. So and when you sort of put priority to it and our resources to it, the work is taking place.
Thank you. And I just want to ask about the human rights situation in India. It's something the NDP has brought up a few times about forming tighter links with, a government that has some real questions around freedom of expression and treatment of minorities lately. I know the trade deal has language about different demographics and some language on values, but I guess just specifically when it comes to India, what we're seeing around freedom of speech, around minorities, if that's something that you'd raised with your counterpart, or how does Canada basically raise those issues, or does that sort of interrupt the negotiations?
I think you could do both things. I think that you could stand up for human rights and Canadian values, and also pursue a trade relationship with a democracy. And this trip was largely focused on the Ministerial Trade and Investment Dialogue, but Canada always stands up for the values that are really important to Canadians, and this is no different. And I was very pleased to have the minister here, where we were able to, not only work on trade and investment and spend time with Canadians, but I think as Canada. Canada has always stood up for human rights, and we've always stood up for the values that are important to Canadians.
Neil Moss, Hill Times.
Hi, thanks for taking the time. With regard to the talks on the EPTA, from the Canadian side after round 6, the indication was the Indians said they didn't have a mandate to talk about agriculture. Is that still the case? Is agriculture something that can be seen in the EPTA?
Well, what I would say about this is that it is an early progress trade agreement, and it's the first installment in an interim agreement. We are talking about many things as part of this agreement. What I've said from the first day is that I want this agreement to be practical. I want it to be serving of Canadian exporters and Canadian businesses, and I think that you will see some element of it. But I would also say to people that it is an early progress agreement, and by definition, that would mean that we're going to start small. And we hope that we will be able to grow from there. So early progress is exactly that. We're going to take one first step, and we're going to follow it up by continued dialogue. But I think the most important thing here is to work on areas where we both agree, where it will both benefit Indians as well as it will benefit Canadians, and I'm optimistic that we will get this work done.
And is there concern about not including certain things in the early progress agreement if it's not guaranteed that a CEPA can be agreed to down the line?
Starting with an early progress agreement is the first step towards CEPA. I work from the basis that a trading relationship is particularly with with a partner who is another democracy, who is part of Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy, that this is not a short-term relationship. This is a relationship that we are building and that will endure, and that is very much a part of part of Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. Early progress means a part of. So I don't want to negotiate in public. There are many things that are being discussed, and in the course of those discussions, some things will make sense to do right now. Some things will make sense to do a little later. But I want to assure Canadians that we are approaching these negotiations with this sense of practicality in mind, and having spent 3 days with the business community from the India delegation that came with Minister Goyal, as well as the many, many, many businesses here on the Canadian side, what we heard overwhelmingly was support for us to keep working on this progress agreement to achieve progress. I want to remind everyone that the Conservatives in opposition tried for 10 years and got nowhere. And I'm interested in making progress, and that is what this is about.
Are there any other questions? Y a-t-il d'autres questions? Please raise your hand. And seeing no questions, thank you very much.